Let's start with the parsing rules as usual, like in the previous videos from TOGC and Old War. Luckily for us, there are no changes on Lord Marrowgar, so everything counts towards your parse. So don't grief your raid and feel free to go ham on the spikes. There are a few mechanics that we need to know about, as they can ruin our road to 99. First of all, he's doing bone slice all the time, where he inflicts damage equal to 300% of his normal melee attacks to tank and his two nearest allies. So this is pretty much a Glyph. Don't stand in front of him, you are dead if you stand in front of him, no 99 if you are dead. Next one is Cold Flame, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a straight line of frost fire that's traveling in the direction of a random raid member that was targeted. Ticks for 11k damage on heroic. Fire is bad, don't stand in fire, always use instant cast while repositioning. Most annoying mechanic, however, that can hinder our try the most is Bone Spike Graveyard, which is happening roughly every 20 seconds, where 3 random raid members are impaled on a Bone Spike. It's an RNG mechanic, so obviously the best chance of ranking high is with luck on your side when you are not impaled. However, you can't do anything about it if you are the target. And last one is Bone Storm. Pretty sure everyone knows what Bone Storm is, just survive this. Use Barskin, don't stand too close of him during this ability, use Rocket Boost and instant cast on repositioning to minimize the DPS loss. When that's out of the way, when it comes to prepotting, the fight is also way over a minute for now, so it's still worth it to benefit from a prepot and then use another potion mid-combat. The fastest kill times are already at 2.5 minutes though, and it's only a second reset of ICC, so perhaps there's a chance this might change in future when people will get better gear or some crazy new cheat strats will emerge. If the encounter duration is around a minute or less, do not prepot and rather use potion during combat coupled with other cooldowns while in Lunar Eclipse. However, I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon for an average guild, so for now feel free to prepot. Fortunately, there is also nothing special happening here in terms of RP that can ruin our prepot. Of course, other than your guildmates.
5, 4,
The army's going.
Army's coming early.
No idea.
Jesus.
And I can
Right. So the question is pretty much, do I prepot Potion of Wild Magic or Potion of Speed? The short answer is both are viable and the DPS difference between them is minimal. What potion in prepot is not going to make or break your road to 99? In my current gear, the difference between prepotting Wild Magic and prepotting Potion of Speed is 11 DPS in favor of Potion of Speed for an encounter with 3 minutes duration. The longer and sophisticated answer though, when it comes to min-maxing, is that usually the Potion of Speed pulls slightly ahead the better gear you have. However, make sure to sim it yourself for your current gear setup, chances are this might not be true for you. It all comes down to your haste and crit values and also a bit of personal preference. That's why I'm a Potion of Wild Magic user, even though Potion of Speed is a DPS increase according to sim. The Potion of Speed seems slightly higher for me, because with the higher crit rating on gear, is relying that I'm gonna proc Lunar Eclipse fairly soon, so the first few Starfire casts in Lunar Eclipse will still benefit from the Potion of Speed duration. Therefore, casting Starfire quicker is more valuable over crit, as your Starfire will crit anyway with or without the Wild Magic Potion. However, since we are a Casino RNG class, if you don't proc Lunar Eclipse, it's pretty much a wasted prepot as it doesn't really help on the Wrath cast at all, since you are most likely global cooldown capped for Wrath anyway. This is why I'm not really fan of Potion of Speed prepot. I rather always have faster first Lunar Eclipse with higher crit of the Wild Magic Potion, as well as first Starfall and Trance benefiting from the spell power burst of the Wild Magic Potion, even though it's around 10 DPS behind. I just can't get over the feeling that there's a chance to waste the prepot completely with Potion of Speed if I won't proc Lunar Eclipse within the first couple of seconds. But in terms of parsing, it's perfectly viable to achieve the 99 regardless on what potion you decide to use. As far as I'm aware, there are mostly 2 common strategies used on Lord Marrowgar. You either spread out completely, pretty much every man for himself, or let just few healers or range DPS spread out and rest of the raid is stacked on the boss to avoid the fires as they spawn behind them. Each have some advantages and disadvantages. Usually advantage of one strategy is disadvantage of another and vice versa. To name a few, if you are stacked in melee, you don't have to move as much if no one screws up or tank won't reposition because of fire spawning behind you and you are already in the middle of a room for easy bonestorm targeting. This way you also benefit from the melee weaving or melee-kin strategy if you have one-hand weapon and offhand, and 2-piece tier 10 bonus when adding the /start attack macro to your instant cast such as Insect Swarm, Moonfire, Innervate, Trance or Starfall. This enables you to have more uptime for the Omen of Clarity spell power procs from the 2-piece tier 10 bonus. You can't do this while in range. You will also spend less time in Bonespire Graveyard while stacking melee, as they usually are cleared way faster compared to being a long range spike. However, if someone screws up or tank repositions, you have to play reactionary if you are in melee and move from fire right away as they spawn and can't plan ahead like when you are in range, and see like the fire slowly coming towards you, so you already know you can throw a few extra starfires for example, and you can move just as one of the dots will fall off, reply it on the move to minimize the DPS loss. You can't do this in melee. And of course, you also generate more threat while in melee. Perhaps some crazy new Parse strategies will emerge later on, but for now, neither of these two have that much of an impact on your Parse, and it's perfectly doable to achieve it using either of them. I prefer staying in range to be honest, as I'm using staff at the moment, so don't have to do the melee-kin thingy, and I also find to have more situational awareness while being in range, as well as it's somehow more easier for me to switch to bone spike targets this way. Alright, so pull is finally about to happen, and there are several ways how to do the opener. In terms of min-maxing your DPS, you can also precast a wrath around 1 or 1.5 seconds before pull, depending on the range after you prepot it. This is something that can squeeze a tiny bit of extra DPS, and I wasn't doing it myself on the footage the first week, but I will definitely give it a try. If you already have the 2-piece tier 10 bonus, you can and should also gift of the wild before the prepot and precast to start the encounter already with the spell power buff of the clear casting proc. One might even argue that there is a tiny DPS increase on the sims even precasting trends, and yes, there is, however, as this is done on paper and the gain is minimal, Lord Marrowgar is not an ideal encounter for precasting trends in my opinion, unless you are resetting him. If you are starting in range and have to precast it at your location several seconds before the pull, and then the trends will spend few seconds again running to the target, that's a lot of seconds where trends were doing nothing, so it's definitely not worth it. Now, when it comes to positioning on the pull and throughout the first phase, if I'm staying in range, I like to stay away from other people in range as well to minimize my movement by reducing the chance I will have to move because of the cold flame. This way, you should move pretty much only when you are the target and not when someone else is the target. So if you know where to stand and if you are not resetting the boss, since we are several yards from the spot where the boss will be tanked, make sure you are using your first instant global cooldowns like Fairy Fire, Insect Swarm, Moonfire, Trance and Starfall to get into the position. It should be more than enough to make it, so by the time the last instant spell is casted, you should already stand still and focus on the Glyphs rotation. If you have a Shadow Priest and a Feral Druid in the raid and want to save a global cooldown on pull, you can also skip the Fairy Fire since it's a part of the Feral's rotation. If you are using Heroism on pull, which I don't see a reason not to do, make sure Trends are one of the first global cooldowns so they will benefit from the Heroism as well. So after Gift of the Wild, preporting into precasting Wrath, use either Moonfire if you are using Glyph of Moonfire with Idol of Lunar Fury, or Insect Swarm if you are using Glyph of Insect Swarm with Idol of Lunar Eclipse with your 4-piece tier 10. Why I like to dot first is not only to stack the crit buff of the idol as soon as possible, but this also gives me a chance to proc my proc-based trinkets like Flare of the Heavens for example, so my next global cooldowns like Trance and Starfall will already benefit from this massive spell power boost. However, if you have Unpatient Shamans in raid and using dot before Trance might cause your Trance to miss Heroism, just switch these two global cooldowns on pull and start with Trance. Don't forget to also mouse over the boss if you are using Serenite Bomb and Starfall mouse over macro as I am as well. There is also an argument to delay Starfall further and wait for your proc-based trinkets to proc, or stack your Murder and Spyglass before Starfalling, but I'm not a fan of doing this on Marrowgar, not only because delaying Starfall will cause you to sacrifice global cooldown from the first beefy Lunar Eclipse, or might cause you to miss one extra Starfall that could have been squeezed in if I wasn't delaying, But more importantly, since the bone spikes are happening roughly every 20 seconds, your next Starfall should line up with bone spikes for more extra Starfall targets and splash damage, and delaying will cause this to desync. Similar argument is dealing Starfall for the first bone spike graveyard after 20 seconds, but I do not recommend doing this not only for previous reasons, but more importantly, you can become the target of the bone spike and then you can say goodbye to your 99 if you decide not to use Starfall and Pull. So a solid opener should be Gift of the Wild, Prepot into Precast Wrath, Trance, Dot, Starfall and proceeding with Eclipse Rotation, fishing for Lunar Eclipse with first few Wrath casts. After reaching the first lunar eclipse, this is where I want to pop everything at the same time while heroism is active, meaning Potion of Speed if I didn't pre-bought, Hyperspeed Accelerators, and unused trinkets for some juicy Starfire nuke. I'm using simple macro for this, and I just pop and start casting Starfire immediately. Some more random tips that it's good idea to mention them. Use second potion mid-combat, most likely Potion of Speed, together with Hyperspeed Accelerators at the start of the lunar eclipse if you are sure no movement is going to happen in next couple of seconds, meaning no flame is coming towards you, and Bone Storm is more than 10 seconds away, and also no spikes are just about to happen in case you are the target. Position yourself around middle during Bone Storm so you won't encounter any range issues and you don't have to reposition and lose DPS if he decides to go on the other side of the room. It's good idea to use Rocket Boots during Bone Storm if you are the target or he's way too close. Best is to couple it with previous tip and use it for repositioning to the middle to minimize further movement and range issues to any target anywhere in the room. If you are using tier 9 from phase 3 with Glyph of Moonfire, then do not dot the boss with Insect Swarm and use it only as a movement option when evading flames or Bone Storm as an instant cast. If you are using 4-piece tier 10 with the new Idol of Lunar Eclipse already, you should have switched to Glyph of Insect Swarm by now. Therefore, do not use Moonfire on boss in this case, and let the Moonfire to be an instant cast option when evading fire or Bone Storm. Always be casting, so every single global cooldown is spent. When you are forced to move because of mechanics, make sure to throw an instant cast on the move to not lose your uptime and minimize the DPS loss. Best option is reapplying your main dot if it just fell off, applying the other dot, using Trance, Starfall, Typhoon, or even Gift Whiff if no other option higher on the priority list is available and both of your dots are still ticking on target. Even innervating your healer when requested is better option than not doing anything at all on the move. You or any druid with brambles should buff the entire raid with thorns. Yes, the boss is taking damage from thorns and this damage is counting for that player. Switch to bone spike targets, but make sure you are not wasting your global cooldowns. Switch to boss for next Starfire cast already if the bone spike target is low on HP and you know you wouldn't be able to finish the cast. Do the same for Wraths, but keep in mind Wrath's travel time to target as it's a projectile, so the switch back to boss might be even sooner in Solar Eclipse. You shouldn't dot the bone spikes unless you are on the move, as they are getting killed fast, so you most likely won't get the full duration of the dot. Regarding the glyphs, on these two kills I was still using phase 3 rotation while running Glyph of Starfall, Moonfire and Starfire. However, as soon as I get my hands on the 4-piece tier 10 and the new idol, I will switch to Glyph of Starfall, Insect Swarm and Focus. Just keep in mind that the range of the Starfall will be nerfed with the Glyph of Focus, so if it's too much of a struggle for you on this encounter, Glyph of Starfire might be an alternative to Focus and perhaps even better option than missing any stars because of range, especially since we will be using the Moonfire on the move anyway. I was also using my default single target spec still from phase 2 that was already showcased in previous Uldur guides, the only difference is that I sacrificed 1 point out of Brambles for the Omen of Clarity because of the 2-piece tier 10 bonus. There is no point of having mana talents like Moonglow or Dream State as you shouldn't have any mana issues in phase 4. There is also no point having Gale Winds or Typhoon as there is no AoE here, and if you really want to spec Typhoon just for movement, it is a possibility, but I would not recommend it as I feel it's a waste of talent point here. If you are watching this after a few weeks of phase 4 already with your 4-piece tier 10 and the new idol, and you already switched to the Glyph of Insect Swarm, ditching your Moonfire from your rotation completely, there is a possibility to shift the 2 talent points out of Improved Moonfire in favor of something else. The options are Nature's Reach for better aggro management if you are doing stacked melee strategy, or Bigger Range for Bone Storm. Another possibility that directly translates into slight DPS increase are Brambles or more points in Genesis. However, keep in mind this only translates into higher DPS if you are really not using Moonfire. Genesis is really weak, and since we will most likely use Moonfire a couple of times for movement option for either Bone Storm or Flames, we might as well leave the talent points in Improved Moonfire. The much more appealing option is stacking more points into Oaken Frenzy, as Marrowgar is one of the best fights to progress from the consistent Bone Storm damage according to Oaken testing thread on the Discord, where some Boomie is achieving even more than 30% uptime of the buff. Quickly looking at the top 3 highest parses on Marrowgar, and 2 of them having Oaken Frenzy uptime more than 20%. So this will most likely be a better option than Brambles for personal gain if there is another Brambles Druid to buff Thorns on the entire raid. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and if you like the content, I would appreciate if you like the video and subscribe. Thank you and good luck.